Hello and good day, eh? Welcome to the Super Good Camping Podcast. My name is Pamela.
I'm Tim.
And we are from supergoodcamping.com. We are here because we are on a mission to inspire other families to enjoy camping adventures such as we have with our kids. Our guest today is an outdoor adventurer that chronicles said adventures via blogging, photography, freelance writing, and videos. She has a real knack for taking great tourism and travel style pictures, as evidenced by the fact that she has been hired by organizations like Ontario Parks and Northeastern Ontario Tourism to take pictures for them. She has written articles, blog posts, taken pictures for many travel and tourism organizations, including Ontario Parks and Explore magazine. She's also currently on the board of directors of the Discovery Routes Trails organization. Most importantly, she loves to be outside as often as she can be. Please welcome Josie Dinsmore. Oh, welcome to the podcast. Thank you
Hi,
so much for
everyone.
being
Hey.
here.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. So right out of the gate, I want to know how do you get on the board of the directors for the Discovery Route Trails? Like, how does that happen?
So I actually just ended my term a few weeks ago.
Okay,
I
cool.
decided not to go for a second term just because I have a bunch of other things going on. But basically, I had at least three people who recommended that I go on that board because they knew that I was very active on some of the area trails and that I was out there biking the bike routes. I was out there hiking, and then also, I was very enthusiastic and passionate about, local outdoor places, because Discovery Routes, basically, it's like a kind of an organization that helps with local trails, kind of in the lower northeastern Ontario area, and then kind of like above Muskoka. So
Okay.
it's kind of in that range. Yeah, so we discussed different projects they were working on and came up with ideas, and they help raise funds or get funding for different groups that want to do trail work. So yeah, it was really neat to be a part of that and to help out with some of their projects and their discussions. Yeah, so that's how that happened. A bunch of people are like, "Hey, you should probably check that out,"
Go
and
do the
you
thing.
might, yeah. So yeah,
Excellent.
that was nice. I might
Like,
rejoin it later on if I find I have time, another year or something. But yeah.
so like stewardship for the trails, helping to maintain them, make sure that they're well kept, and or just actually
Yeah,
planning out the routes for trails.
they actually do help with that. Like they'll do a whole bunch of different things. Sometimes like a township will approach them and say, we want to create this trail on an old rail bed through our area. Can you help us out with some funding or how we go about doing that? So yeah, all sorts of things. And then they create a website where they put all of the information from all of the area trails onto, so people have kind of one website they can go to find everything. So yeah, and it's not just hiking, it's bike routes. They have some canoe routes, um, snowshoeing, cross country skiing, kind of anything that, and I think they do a little bit of motorized too, a little bit of like ATV and snowmobiling, but it's mostly the non-motorized that they focus on.
Cool. Well, it's great to know that things like that are out there. Like it's
Yeah.
down here in Southern Ontario, it's about running bicyclists over. That's how that plays.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard a lot about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sad but true.
yeah.
Yep. Um, okay, so because you're an outdoors gal, excuse me. What kind of outdoors things would tell us some of your favorites, like in a camping sense, in a daily sense?
Um, So my favorites are hiking and biking, or right at, like, I can't decide between the two really, which I like the best. I have been doing a lot more biking in recent years because we kind of been doing some new stuff with that. But for winter, it's mostly cross country skiing and more hiking. I don't have snowshoes, or I'd probably be into that. It's on snowshoes, fat bike, all on my list of many things I want to buy. That long gear list that you gotta slowly work through. I also, a few years back, I started getting into canoeing a little. So I still consider myself kind of a beginner in that, but I'm really enjoying starting to get out into some local lakes and rivers. I used to do a lot of camping years ago with my family, and then for a few different reasons, we kind of got out of it. And now in the last couple years, we've been slowly getting back into it again, which has been really nice. So we've been doing some car camping. I also did some kind of bike trip camping, which is a whole other category. And then on top of that, I guess kind of an outdoor activity for me is photography. It's kind of something that I don't necessarily go out specifically to do. It just happens on every single outdoor adventure I go on. You know, I have the camera or the phone or the GoPro or something, and um, I'm one of those people that really like to document things, whether it's writing or photography. Um, so yeah, there's always tons and tons of pictures taken. And now I'm trying to get into video a little bit too, which is kind of fun. So yeah, so those are some of my main outdoor activities that I like. And then just traveling in general. I always like to go to different Ontario parks or conservation areas, historic sites, and check out stuff like that. Um, yeah, so kind of those are some of the main things.
Okay, that's a pretty wide.
Yeah.
That's
I'm not one of these I'm not one of these people that's kind of like I'm not strictly, you know, a canoeing person or a cyclist. Like I kind of like a bunch of different stuff, and that's part of the reason why when I was coming up for a name for my social media when I first created this, I thought, well, I don't want anything too specific because I do everything. So I that's why I thought adventures with Josie because it's any adventure I go on will be covered by that title.
yeah. Who
So
knows?
yeah.
We're going here
Yeah,
today. We're going there today. We're doing it this way. We're doing it that.
yeah, yeah.
Cool. Well, it's a good. It's I like the title period, and that's a smart move because if you know even if you're not into something, so bike camping certainly for me, actually I think it might be your fault that I started to research it.
Oh, okay.
Um, Possibly,
Mhm.
it's fault is wrong term. Like I would never have thought about bike camping in the grand scheme of things, just
Yeah.
because a million years ago, roughly, I tried to camp on a motorcycle, and
Mhm.
it's like, where am
Mhm.
I can't, I need way too much stuff
Yeah.
behind me, but I can't take that stuff, so
Nope.
it didn't play out well.
Mhm.
But let's use that as a segue. Tell me about, how do you go about bike camping? What do you have to strip things down? It has to be, you have to be thinking about like hiking where everything, it has to be small, it has to be light, it has to be all those things. I make the assumption. Tell me how that plays out for you.
Yeah, so we actually in 2022 we did our first ever two bike trips. And so like I did a lot of research on what other people were bringing, and then when it comes down to it, it's kind of completely up to you what you're willing to bring with you, how much weight you're willing to. It's like it's no different. It's actually very similar to uh, canoe tripping or backpacking. You have the little amount of space you have in your packs that you can carry, except you know on a bike, it's the packs are usually on the bike, and you know you have to be very careful. You want you know a small tent. You want like you know sleeping bags, lightweight stuff. Limited clothing, like you don't want to bring like your whole wardrobe with you. And even with food, you know, you want to bring like dehydrated stuff, things that don't need to be refrigerated. Um, yeah, and so it all depends what kind of space you have on your bike too. If you have larger bags, you can bring more if you want. And then there's some people who they go extremely lightweight and they'll have just one little bag. They'll throw a sleeping bag and a sleeping pad and they'll just sleep under the stars. When we went, we had a little bit more stuff. I want, you know, a little bit more comfortable. But yeah, so it's basically very similar to like hiking, backpacking, or canoe tripping. The same kind of idea. Except you don't physically have it on your back, like you're not walking with all this weight on your back, but it's still on the bike, and it's still, you know, the more weight you have on your bike, um the more difficult it is going to be to go up hills and to ride on rougher like gravel roads. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit how you go about it. You think in that kind of a lighter weight camping type mindset.
Cool. So, like, correct me when I pronounce it incorrectly. Pannier bags.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
so what we used, because that's what we already had, we did the pannier bags. So you'll have a rack on the back of the bike behind the seat, and it kind of goes over the back tire, and they kind of clip on to each side of the rack. And then you can fill them up with, whatever. And if they're waterproof, they might have the roll top, similar to a dry bag. And yeah, so some people have a trunk bag that'll sit on top of the rack. Some people have a seat bag, which is a big kind of long bag that sticks out from the back under the seat. There's also, your handlebar bags at the front. I have a couple of, they're called feed bags, where they attach to the stem area of the bike. And they look like cup holders in a way. I usually put a water bottle in one. And so those are right in front of you. So, and then of course there's tube bags, there's frame bags, all sorts of different options. Uh, yeah, it's really neat if you go online and you look up like bike packing setups, and you see all of the different ways that people have outfitted their bikes. And some people are making homemade gear and setting it up, and other people have all the, high tech bags. And yeah, so it's cool to see um, what people are doing. And yeah, so when we did our trips, we had some panniers already, which it helps because, we didn't have to go buy out anything new. But we did find that our bags were a little bit small for what we needed to bring. Um, so at the end of this last year, I actually did buy some larger panniers that I'll be trying out this year. So that'll be a lot nicer to fit a bit more stuff, but then also so things aren't shoved in so tight, because how tight I had my bag packed last year. If I wanted to get anything out, it was awful trying to pull everything out and then shove it back in. So I have a little bit more space to work with this year.
Cool. So you can drag as much as you want. You just way more, way less fun pedaling.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's actually surprising when we went out for the first time, which was just a short overnight trip. I was surprised once I got on the bike how the weight kind of disappeared, and I forgot sometimes that I had that amount of stuff on the bike. And when I noticed it more was when I was getting on or off the bike, because the balance is completely wrong, and I almost fell a few times getting on or off of it. But when I was actually on it and going, on a level surface, you just kind of like, oh, I forgot I have like a whole load of a whole tent and things back there. So yeah, I was really surprised.
Cool.
Was it a long bike to get to where you're going camping?
So the first trip we did, the distance was only about 44 kilometers. We biked from, yeah, I know. Well, actually,
Yes.
no, 4 years ago, 44 kilometers was way more than we had ever ridden. Yeah, so, but a lot has happened in the last 4 or so years with us with biking. But yeah, so we actually biked from our little town, which is north of Algonquin Park, and we rode to the Kaios campground in the north of Algonquin Park, and we spent the night there. And then we rode home the next day, and so that was our first little test at like a bike trip, like a bike packing. So yeah, it was pretty neat.
Yeah, I don't think 44 kilometers would be a test run for me. I think,
Yeah.
think that'd be probably a heart attack, but whatever. That's cool. And
Mhm.
I imagine, I suppose if you had some experience with it, the immediate picture that came to mind was like logging roads, but not,
Yeah.
crappy dirt, gravel, lots of mud puddles, all that sort of jazz. Are you already experienced in that because you live in a more northern community, or was that a bit of a, ooh, this is fun, like the learning curve?
Well, actually, we're used to some rough roads around here because there's the area where we live, there's all sorts, like there's pavement, there's gravel roads, there's some trails. We kind of do a bit of everything. But actually, that route was mostly paved. It's actually a paved road all the way from the Highway 17 into Kiosk.
Oh, nice.
So it actually was a fairly easy, like we weren't completely in the middle of nowhere on that route. So that was one of the reasons we chose that route, because we were very familiar with it. We had biked it before, um, and we weren't completely isolated. So if we needed help, there was going to probably be someone driving by. Probably the worst of it was that you lose phone service maybe so many kilometers north of Algonquin. You lose phone service. So we knew at a certain point, we're not calling for help. We're on our own. But yeah, so that we went for, fairly easy route. But yeah, it's kind of neat. There's all sorts of, like, with the bike packing, um you could go anywhere. You could ride down some logging road miles and miles into the middle of nowhere, and then just pull over, and set up camp. We're not really into that yet. We'll probably stay more in the actual campgrounds for a while. But yeah, I know people who they'll just go anywhere with their bikes and just um yeah, just crazy trails and logging roads and all sorts of things.
Cool. Cool. Well, yeah, I mean, again, because it's your fault, I started researching, and
Yeah.
there's this guy, and I'm chagrined that I'm completely blanking on him. He likes to build things in his backyard, and he built an e-bike, and he
Oh, okay.
built a trailer to go on said
Mhm.
e-bike at like
Yeah.
a teardrop type deal, with a whole battery pack. The thing that it's like my camera gear box, which is far too large. He used the same thing, but he used it to pack his batteries into.
Hmm.
And what a cool setup. And
Yeah.
that's what he does, because he can get 100 and change kilometers out of it, and
Hmm.
he's off. It's a one-man deal. And I thought, oh, that's so cool. I would get in trouble, I'm not supposed to leave the family behind, but that would be a great thing to go and do.
Yeah, we actually seen a guy this summer. He was parked in a local Ontario park. We didn't meet him because he was inside somewhere at the time, but he had a bike, kind of, I think it's the recumbent bike
Yep.
where you
That you
lay
sit
down.
down, you lay down almost.
Yeah, and
Yep.
he had these panniers on it, but then he had a whole solar panel along the whole top, like a roof. And I ended up, he had like social media on a sign on the back, and I ended up looking it up, and he was from France or some kind of thing like that. And he was going like around the world. But yeah, that was really interesting because he had like a whole solar panel right across the bike. Um, and yeah, it's really neat. People just they come up with all these cool ideas. It's not just, um, normal bikes with everybody's got the same bags. Like people are just, you know. And then there's yeah, the people have trailers. Some of them have bags at the front. Yeah, it's just all sorts of cool things.
That's cool. Well, and solar panels is a great idea.
Yeah.
Especially if you e-bike, or you've got, all your electronics to charge,
Mhm.
and it's giving you UV
Shelter.
protection at the same time. That's
Yeah, yeah,
fabulous. Yeah. So I'm
yeah.
using the sun and I'm blocking the sun. It's There's a thing in there.
You don't use e-bikes though. You're pedaling.
Yeah, we're actually pedaling. I had a mountain bike, just, cheap mountain bike for many years, and then a couple years ago I upgraded to a gravel bike. Because gravel bikes are designed to be, they're good on pavement, they're good on some gravel, they can even do a little trail. So that really helped in the longer distances that we were doing. I was able to do it, have an easier ride. Because, mountain bikes, they have such a big tread and different size tires and everything, and that can really slow you down. So now I'm able to go a lot faster and easier. But
Cool. I didn't even know they had gravel bikes.
No.
yeah, I didn't actually either, but a friend recommended it to me, and so I looked into them. I said, yeah, I think that's what I need, because where we live, a road bike would be no good, because you can go out, you can go out your door and be on pavement for a few kilometers, and all of a sudden you have to hit a gravel road to get to the next stretch of pavement. So you definitely want something that's going to be able to handle all of the different, you know, types of road that you're going to run into around here, because we're in Northern Ontario, and so there's all sorts of stuff. But yeah, so that was really nice to upgrade to a bike like that, because now I'm enjoying it a lot more.
Yeah, it's better. It's always better to like what you're doing as opposed to feel like you're working it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. You have a cool bike story about somebody you were following.
Yes.
Have at her.
Um, so yeah, I'll see where I'm gonna start. So there is a woman on it's a kind of a long story. I'll try and keep it short. There's a woman that I started following last winter or so. And her social media and YouTube is called Wheels on a Bike. Her name is Agnieszka, and she's from Toronto. And shortly after I started following her on YouTube, she announced that she was going to be doing a cross Canada bike trip. And I'm like, oh, cool, I got to follow this, because, that kind of stuff. I love following that online. So started following her pretty like every day on Instagram, seeing where she was. And I knew that most people who cross Canada are going to do, Trans Canada, Highway 17, especially through this area because there is no other option. Um, so I thought, oh, that'd be really cool when she comes through town here in Mattawa, Ontario. Um, if I could, go and say hi to her. And so I'd sent her a message on Instagram. I'm like, oh, hey, like when you're coming through town or getting closer, let me know, and I'll come out and say hi. And so, anyways, probably about a week before, I was following along, and I'm like, man, she's going really fast now. Like she was starting to get like, as you get biking and you get your legs going and muscles going, you're able to do a lot more distance in one day. And so she was starting to do these like 130 or plus days, like kilometers. Um, and so I thought, oh no, I think she's going to be passing through town when I'm actually not home, because I was going to be going away for a few-day camping trip. So, anyways, I found out, sure enough, the exact time she would be passing through my town, we wouldn't be here. And I'm like, oh no, that's too bad. Um, but then I found out the day that we would be driving home and we would be coming from the Ottawa direction, she would be heading out of town towards the Ottawa direction. So I'm like, oh, okay, we're gonna cross paths here. So I thought, okay, we will watch for you when we're driving. And she sent me a little link to her like little GPS tracker.
Right.
And I thought, hey, yeah, because she didn't have a public one, but she was sending it out to some people for security reasons.
Yep.
And so, anyways, that day came, and we were on our way home. We were actually over in the kind of Ottawa Valley area. We were at Bon Cher Provincial Park, so we were coming from that direction. Um, so we were going along, and I was keeping an eye on her tracker, and she was, so many kilometers away from Mattawa, coming towards us. And then I noticed there was one spot where she had kind of stopped for a long time, and I thought, oh, that's kind of weird. And I thought, oh, maybe she's taking a break. And then we stopped and we went into a restaurant to have supper. And we came out, and then all of a sudden her tracker had jumped like way ahead, like, and her speed was like the speed of like a vehicle, not like the speed of like a bike. You can go fast on a bike, but not that fast. Like this was like 80, 90 kilometers an hour. And I'm like, okay, that's um something's weird. And then I noticed the tracker was a bit delayed, so I was getting it kind of like after the fact. And then I noticed that the tracker had passed where we were. And I'm like, okay, that's we never seen a bike going by. Um, Something is wrong. And I thought she's got to be in a vehicle. Which that started to concern me too. Why is she in a vehicle or something?
If she's doing bike
And then
trip. Yep.
Yeah, and then so I went back to the tracker, and I noticed in the spot where she had stopped for quite a while, there was a new little red flag that had popped up, and it said accident. And so right away I'm like, oh no, did something happen? So we kept driving along. So we were actually getting closer to like our area where we live. And we were watching the tracker to see where the exact spot. And we got closer, and then right when we got to the exact spot along the highway where the marker was, looked over in the ditch, and there was her bike laying there in the ditch. She wasn't around, just, and I was like, I think it really like shook me up. I'm like, oh my gosh. And the only words that came out of my mouth was like, that's her bike, that's her bike, that's her bike. Like I was just freaked out by it. And I knew it was her bike because I had like followed her the last how many months and seen that bike, and I knew that bike exactly what it looked like. So we actually stopped and we all got out. Like I was with my whole family. We all got out and we walked over, and the bike was laying there. Everything was like, all of her belongings were like all pulled out from bags, scattered all about. And there was police tape wrapped around the bike and then over around signpost. And we're just like, oh my gosh, what happened? We didn't know like if she had been in an accident and had got hurt. We didn't know if like someone had kidnapped her or something. Like you don't know, like on Trans-Canada Highway. But we figured she'd probably gotten in an accident, although there didn't seem to be much damage on the bike. So anyways, it was quite something to you're following someone on social media for months, and then all of a sudden there's their bike right in front of you in that situation. So it was like, shocking. um I sent her a message right away. Of course, didn't hear anything back. And we had to get going, though, because we had to keep going home. And we felt so awful, especially me and my mom, because it's me and my mom who do the biking together. And we felt awful leaving her bike there on the side of the road. We were almost tempted to like pick it up and take it home. Because like, when you go out on these bike trips, like, and that's your life right there, is the bike and everything on it. And we just felt so awful leaving it there on the side of the road. But with the police tape and everything, we didn't want to touch anything. So we left it. And then, yeah, so the whole rest of the way home, we're just like, oh my gosh, what happened? Finally, a few hours later, she actually answered me back on Instagram, and she was in the hospital in, I think it was Pembroke.
Right.
And yeah, so I was glad. I'm like, oh, good, she sent me a message. Not good she's in the hospital, but so what happened is she had been going up a hill, and somehow, I don't know if she was partially on the pavement at that time, a car had hit her from behind. Luckily, she had quite large panniers on her bike, and the pannier took kind of the brunt of where the car hit, and then it knocked her over into the ditch. And she had she was quite scratched and bruised up, but nothing was broken. She hadn't like hit her head or anything, so she was very, very lucky. They kept her like, in the hospital overnight. But yeah, she was really, really lucky, because I think that highway's like 90 kilometers an hour, the speed limit or something.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So, and actually, the paramedics who had picked her up, they went back later and picked up her bike and then brought it back to the hospital for her. But yeah, it was quite an experience to see that, and then the whole story, and especially for me and my mom, because this was exactly a week before we would be going on our first multi-day bike trip. And it was going to be like just a 4-day bike trip, not across Canada, but it was kind of like, oh wow, that's quite a thing to see when you're going to be heading out on roads. Yeah, so a lot to think about. But anyways, to finish her story, she went home. Her parents picked her up. She took it easy for a couple weeks. Got things kind of straightened around. I think she had to get a new bike tire, but there wasn't a lot of other damage. And she had to get a new bike bag because the car took care of the one bag. And then she actually headed right back out on her bike, and she kept going, and she made it all the way to Newfoundland. And I forget what that point is called in Newfoundland. It's the most eastern point
Yeah,
with the
no, I'm
lighthouse
blanking too.
everybody goes to. Yeah, and she made it. And actually, when she arrived in Newfoundland was like the day that the hurricane hit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then I forgot to add too, just to make her story more interesting, she was in Saskatchewan the day that they had all those tornadoes in the summer too. So but
I'd take that personally, I think. It's following me
yeah.
around, man.
but yeah, so that was quite an experience to follow her and then to see like the whole bike incident, the accident. Yeah, so that was kind of it was really weird because we didn't actually get to meet her, but we felt like we got to know her through that, seeing her bike there. So
Yeah, that's certainly
yeah.
a path crossing. Wow. Well, I mean, I'm glad she's okay and stuff. That could go badly. Again,
Mhm.
here in Toronto, it goes badly
Yeah.
often.
I think it
It's
was
makes me sad.
I I think it was really important though that she actually got back out on her bike and decided to complete the trip. Because I think that's probably if you don't get back out there, you're probably not it's going to be more difficult to get back out there later. It's probably scary after that happens. But it was probably really good that she did. But yeah, so if anyone wants to check out her story, like she's on social media, she's on well YouTube. She's been slowly posting videos from the trip. So it's hers is called Wheels on a Bike. So yeah, I'd recommend checking that out if you're into biking or just interested in the story.
Well, cool. Yeah, and a great story. We'll certainly tag it in the, what do we call it? The footer? No, is it the footer? Yeah.
Thank you so much to our special guest, Josie with Dinsmore. Please do check her out on all the social media. She's Adventures with Josie. And please do check us out too. We are on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and we would love to hear from you. Our email address is hi@supergoodcamping.com. That's hi@supergoodcamping.com. I'm Pamela.
I'm Tim.
And we are from supergoodcamping.com. Please do listen again soon. Bye.
Bye.